right. Welcome back to the Gym Business Coach podcast. I'm your host, Tim Lyons, joined back in studio on the wood wall with the V-neck, Zach Columbia.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey.
I'm back.
Is your family part of the Columbia outerwear brand?
Man, if it were, I wouldn't be working for you.
Think you get it, or is it Columbia Pictures?
Columbia Pictures? Yeah, maybe it's Columbia Cocaine.
Is it Columbia House? Remember Columbia House?
Columbia House.
That was before your time with the dollar, the one penny CDs.
Oh, okay.
Columbia House. Nobody remembers that? Anyone?
No.
So Columbia House, when I was early in high school, probably in junior high, they would do, you could, for 1 penny, you would get 13 albums. Okay. And then they hook you into this recurring thing, your credit card's on file. But like, if you didn't return all of them by a certain amount of time, you're hooked in. And they were a multi-million-dollar, like it was this, yeah, look it up, Columbia House. I think it's Columbia House. Brian's our new video guy. Give him a round of applause, folks.
Hey.
Go check out Columbia House 1 penny promotion and tell me what you find. We'll bring that in on the next clip. All right, so listen, guys. About 10 years ago, I had a little bit of a scare in the business. Not a scare because we were failing, but because we were like almost making it. We kept hitting the ceiling and like getting to our revenue numbers, and then we would lose members, and then we would get our team good, and then we'd lose a coach. And it's like everything was close, but it wasn't there yet. And it wasn't because we weren't skilled or didn't know what we were doing or lack of effort or care. It was because we were in the wrong model. And so I said, like, what am I going to do? Like, I had to take a step back and like, we keep hitting the ceiling. What the hell's going on? And I had to say, like, what are we doing? Like, I was ready to give up. And it's many times, like, not just this one time, a bazillion times. Like, what are we doing? We're working our ass off. We just never get there. And every time we get close, we just drop down. And what was it? So I set out on a mission to kind of like understand the data a little bit better. Like, not the data that we all look at, the gross revenue and the member count, but like the data behind the data of who our clients were, how much were they spending with us, how much were they worth, what services did they do that stayed the longest and paid the longest. And what I found was it was super clear after we figured out all the numbers. It was the two numbers that kind of bubbled up to the top was 9.8 and 36.2. What do those numbers really mean? Number 9.8 was the amount of months, amount of time in months that our large group training members were staying with us. The large group training members were paying between like $159 and $179 a month, and they would stay just under 10 months, and they would recycle out. We'd replace them, and it was like, like a constant battle. And then over on the other end, we had semi-private training 10 years ago. It's not what it is today in regards to like how great it is, but it was a service that we had, and those clients were paying about $350 to $450 a month. And they were staying 3 years, 36.2 months to be exact. And I was like, well, these clients are paying more and staying 3.5 times longer. And that's not intuitive. Like, you would think they're paying more, they couldn't afford it, and they would cancel. They started looking like at the people, at the human beings that were taking the service. And it was night and day. Like, there was just a different human being, right? Our semi-private training clients were a little bit older, usually well over 40, probably mid 60s or 50s. And they were settled. They weren't, some of them were retired. So this area, they retire early. They weren't moving around the country to find their place and their footing. They had kids and they weren't going anywhere. Whereas the larger training members, the ones that were, paying $159, they were younger, early 20s, maybe early 30s. They would get married and move and take a new job and move, or times got tough and they would lose their job and they couldn't afford it anymore, and they would cancel their membership and they would bounce around and try the cheapest thing. Groupon was big in that demographic. And there was these other ones kind of about the same time. I don't remember the names of those kind of offers. And so when we realized this, it was pretty easy to make a decision like, hey, we've got to get rid of large group training and go all in on semi-private training. And really, that's what we did. It took a while, a couple of years to be exact, that, we're kind of fumbling around. We would cut a couple sessions out, not to piss everybody off, because there was $20,000-$30,000 a month coming in on this one line item of large group training. It was like, if we're going to do this, we got to do this. And so, thankfully, as bad as COVID was, the best thing that happened was it was a great excuse to get rid of it once and for all. We had already been trending that way. We weren't signing up anybody like new. We were just kind of servicing the people that we had. And, it's funny because, the large group, 20 people in a class was down to like 5 or 6 anyway. And then we would start looking at it like, man, there's only 5 people in that class. And then there's 6 people in a semi-private training, and they're paying like double and triple the amount. So we finally got rid of it once and for all. And at that point in time, it's really where everything kind of like shot up. Obviously, we had taken a huge loss with COVID and everything else, but like coming out of it, we were established for success because we got rid of it. We did a rebrand. We did everything at the right time. We were trending that way, and then it shot up. And what we see in today is people are still holding on to like a service category for that reason. It's like, hey, I'm making 12 grand a month. Like, it's tough to just let that go. But until you can get rid of it and go all in on one thing, you're always going to be mediocre across the board. And I always felt like, no, not us. We're great at everything. And we were better than most, but like not great, like where we are today. And so that's kind of like the story on how we just went all in. But the problem I'm seeing is there's a lot of gym owners. We've got about 20 of them coming out here this week for our MDM. And most of them have multiple service offerings, one-on-one in large group and small group and semi-private and open gym. And it's like all in one. And then you look at the revenue, it's like, 22,000. So like really what's coming from each one. And it probably is usually like when we really pull the curtain back, it's usually 80-20. 80% is still coming from your semi-private and 20 is coming from all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So,
man, there's a lot of different, different things to touch on here. I remember, in 2015, when I started working here as a coach, doing both, right? Like we had our coaching staff and coaches would deliver both the semi-private and the large group.
mm-hmm.
And they're completely different deliveries. I remember you're in this semi-private coaching environment where I'm not yelling at the clients, I'm coming over and I'm coaching you and I'm, correcting your form. And it's very, very like, high touch and individualized. And then you just, as a coach, you just have to shift gears from 1 hour to the next where it's like, bring the energy, get everybody fired up. I'm yelling at you. And, there's 20 people in a room. And then all of a sudden, like that hour's over and boom, I got to go right back to, being that high touch coach again. And I remember just from a coaching standpoint, it was very difficult, especially at the end of the day. We had a large group class that I would run at 6 p.m. and then a semi-private at 7 p.m. And it's like, those are my last 2 hours of the day. And man, like I was pouring my heart and soul into screaming at those people and burpees on the floor and the energy. And I'm like smoked by the time that's 7 o'clock. And it was really hard to bring the same level of energy and quality in a different way to that group. So just from a coach's standpoint, I mean, how does that impact them and their ability to deliver the same consistent experience for the clients?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I knew there were some difficulties there. I didn't know like energy wise that you were smoked and stuff, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're offering one thing, you can really become a master at that style. But yeah, bouncing around. And then on top of that, there were some one-on-ones, not for us, but like there's gyms that do this large group and one-on-one. And then they'll sit down and do a nutrition consultation and then they'll go over there. It's just crazy. Right.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult to, as a gym owner, to say, we're not going to offer that anymore. Even though I've got people that will pay me money in this market. It's kind of easy to sign those people up sometimes too, because they're very tribe, like we're talking large group training, very tribe mentality. They're going to bring a friend, they're going to come to your happy hour. They're like very, bought in and they're fun. And it's Like it's a fun, like I remember I used to do in boot camp style training. I used to jump in and have a good time. It was great. But at the end of the day, the 9.8 versus 36.2, there really is no question. It's not, if the numbers were inversed, meaning the large group training clients stayed 36.2 months and the small semi-private stayed 9.8 months, it'd be a very difficult decision. Be like, they're worth more, but they don't stay as long. These ones they do stay forever, but they're not worth as much. What do you do? But in this situation, it was like, there is no question. We got to get rid of large group. We got to pull this Band-Aid off, even though we didn't. Many of our gym owners that we help coach to kind of transition into semi-private, they do it faster, and they're glad they did. We've had both sides, like where, gosh, we slow played it, and I wish I would have just done it sooner. And some that are like, man, I just ripped the Band-Aid off, and it was perfect because out with the old and in with the new, and they're, all fired up, and their business are exponentially better. Not like, you got a nice 8% increase, dude. I'm talking like, dude, we're making 38% more this year and profit this year than last year. And all we did was change the semi-private. Now, the key to this, and, something that a lot of gym owners miss, is how to do it. This is what to do. The how that's the details. That's the thing where I've seen too many gyms fail. In fact, there's a very well-known, industry leader that we're working with and helping right now, that failed trying to bring semi-private in because he just thought that maybe we just do the same thing with less people and people will pay more for that. And it just kind of fizzled out after a couple months. And that's what I see a lot of gym owners do, is let's just put it on the pricing sheet. We'll present it as a more intimate option. But then when you actually look at the delivery, it's literally the same thing as their large group with just less people. And people don't pay for that. In fact, I'd argue they probably want more people than less in that style of workout because it's more energy. So you're going to actually take the one thing that is a benefit of a large group training, which is the energy, and you're going to take it away and charge more for it and give them the same delivery. Doesn't make any sense. And that's what we see. It happens all the time, and they just fall apart and just don't go anywhere. Whereas the gyms that can create a differentiation in the product, the delivery, they smell different, look different, they use different equipment that's clearly different. They use our Semi-Private Pro software tablets that are living on there. Like, that's clearly different. That's clearly worth more than what I'm getting over here where everybody's doing the same thing. I can see my workouts and everything's different. That to me is worth the money that I'll spend, $400, $500 a month versus, large group and paying, under 200. So any words of wisdom here would be like, don't just lob it out there. You have to have a set plan of attack.
Yeah. And I think that if you just follow, if you look at our industry and look at the trends, it's obvious that gym owners are recognizing the math of the model. They're starting to understand, like they're seeing the retention, right? They're going, okay, 36 months versus 9 months. They're looking at it and going, okay, in order for me to, for my gym to do good revenue, I have to have 500 large group members that are churning at 10%. Like, how can I go get 50 new clients a month? Like, I can't do that. It's impossible. So they're looking at that versus, I need 200 semi-private clients that are paying me $400 a month. And so when they start looking at the numbers, they're going, man, this model makes perfect sense. Then they lob it out there. Mm-hmm. They think that small group training is semi-private training. Small group, like you're saying, it's just a WOD. It's a workout of the day with less people. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have the same value. And so they're like, I just can never get it off the ground. I put it on my price sheet. Clients don't want it. And it's like, well, yeah, of course they didn't want it. Like, it's not, there's no added value for them. There's a very specific strategy for how to implement this, how to differentiate it. If you are going to phase it in versus if you are just going to rip that Band-Aid off, there's a way that we make that decision to determine when we're coaching somebody. There's a way we make that decision to determine which option you should deploy here, which one's going to be the best for you.
Correct.
And so, most gym owners are, one, they might not know that formula to determine which one to go with, and like, well, we're just going to continue to offer both, but then they're missing the components of semi-private, of what makes semi-private.
Sure.
And then they're like, that never got off the ground. And then they're like, man, what do I do now? They're just searching for some other next
greatest thing, next shiny ball, high ticket, whatever, transformation programs. And the gyms, it's so interesting. There's gyms that, like in our Iron Circle mastermind, the boys from Kentucky come to mind. They were kind of holding on to that large group training, and they pulled the Band-Aid. It feels like it's about 4 years now, 4 or 5 years. Every year has been a record year since then, and they're not like rookies in this industry. They've been around decade plus years, like at least 12, 15 years. And it wasn't until they finally ripped the Band-Aid off. And not only that, they implemented systems that are just good people, and they take care of their clients. They got a great team, and all that stuff kind of came up with it. Like as they had more money coming in, they could support, better staff, and all this stuff kind of bubbled up. Now, it's not like it's a pro or a con, but like not long ago, they were like, hey, we're kind of bored. We don't know what to do. We don't go to the gym anymore. It just runs. It's kind of like, what should we do next? So, of course, they probably go and break something in the gym so they could get something to do, right? But that's a great example, because they were following a bunch of different kind of like gurus in the past and different coaching programs, and it was always just kind of like they could never just go all in, and finally they just pulled the Band-Aid off, and it was like probably the best decision that they made. It's awesome to see how amazing how far they've come, and they're probably one of our top gyms in our whole ecosystem in the Iron Circle, revenue wise.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you look at them, like you said, implementing the systems. They got semi-private pro. So each of their clients, programs is personalized. They even started a podcast now. And they've got that. Their director has been in my director circle. I've been coaching him, and they really go. They've gone all in on the model and the systems, around it, and that's why you see the success. That's really the thing that differentiates gyms that continue to like grind and struggle, and they just keep banging up against that ceiling. And the gyms that scale and thrive is the model is the foundation, but then the systems to support that model. And like you could go implement semi-private training in your gym tomorrow, and it could not go anywhere.
It could fail.
It could fail.
It has failed for many.
For many.
And then the excuse is my clients don't want that.
Exactly.
It's not true. That's not true.
No, you just
maybe those current clients don't, but there's a whole slew of clients in your market that are begging for this.
Yeah.
And we've even had clients that you've signed up at this gym when you were the director that had come from another semi-private training gym in another state, and they're looking for it. Like, you're the only gym in town that has this style that I've been looking for. It's a semi-private training. So there's, it's not large group. It's not a class. They definitely know the difference now. And even though we've been doing it for 15 years, it's finally, hopefully, starting to become a little bit more well-known where clients are actually looking for this. They all know classes. They all will Google classes. Hey, I want a fitness class. But they don't understand yet. But when you introduce it to them and they experience it, they can't go the other way anymore. It's just too good. It's too good of training. So listen, gym owners, I guess the synopsis or the message of this podcast is you can't really ever get to true potential unless you go all in on semi-private, on that one thing. So you can't split, from everything from the clients are different to burns the coaches out when you're switching back and forth to just having an identity in the gym. You just don't have it. So hopefully that helps you guys make that switch. If you do need help, we've got links in the show notes. We also have a podcast channel. You guys check us out over there. We'd love to be able to help you and work with you, hold your hand, and make sure that you guys finally can realize hey, there is $1 million model in this training industry, and it lives in the semi-private and done the right way. So hopefully that helps you guys. That's it for this episode. Until next time, keep changing lives. See you on the next show. Bye.